This week on the recently canceled podcast, the aftermath of my first hour of stand-up comedy in a theater. World War III may have actually started, and I'll explain how or why. The NBA draft, and as a Patreon exclusive, Trump and the child immigrant camps. I have a lot to complain about, so let's do this.
The recently canceled podcast with Von Fry.
Hey, how goes it? So, hope you guys are doing okay. You know, not as good as me, but okay. Or actually not as terrible as me, really. I think that's what it comes down to. First, I want to say that if you hear me biting into something, this is a Pepperidge Farm Milano double chocolate. I don't know why it's called double. See, to me, if a cookie is double chocolate, that means the wafer is chocolate and the cream is chocolate or has chocolate chips. This is like 2 vanilla wafers and then chocolate in the middle. My mom's like, oh, it's double chocolate because it's like double stuffed Oreos. So why isn't it double stuffed chocolate? Chocolate double stuff. Is that an unappealing name? I don't know. As other desserts go, I tried the Jurassic Chomp Blizzard at Dairy Queen. You guys seen these ads? I swear I'm seeing more ads for the Dairy Queen tie-in dessert than I am for the movie Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Ain't that something where it's like, hey, let's advertise a product they can get right now instead of pre-booking that movie theater for Friday's premiere. I think this movie's been playing in other countries for a couple weeks now, because it's made about $400 million before it hits the U.S. I feel so much like a second-class citizen when it comes to entertainment here in America, where we make American films and we show them to other countries first, out of some kind of idea that if we showed them in America first, the rest of the world would pirate them. So what kind of message is that really sending us? Hey, we don't really care about the American box office. The American peanuts don't matter. Let's get these suckers over in China to go see our movies first. That's what we want. There's more Chinese people. We just want them to be happy. Here we go. Let's throw in a token Asian. There we go. That's how it works. Everything's just so much to complain about. On the bright side, I did an hour of stand-up comedy. You guys seen a couple of the bits I posted on the channel. I think those were pretty well received. Here's how I know. That Overwatch bit, I posted it up on Reddit, a very antagonistic website ran by a bunch of man-children. And they didn't exactly hate it. That's how I know it went pretty well, because it had a few thumbs up. And if you post something on a subreddit and it doesn't immediately get thumbs down with a bunch of people telling you to leave or kill yourself, then you must have done pretty good. That's what I know. So then I post an AMA, and Ask Me Anything, over on the stand-up comedy subreddit. It's supposed to be a bunch of comedians trying out the material, not necessarily sharing bits of known comedians, as they call that low effort work, trying to get people's karma rating up on Reddit, as it's thought. So I'm like, hey, I just did my first hour of stand-up comedy in a theater. Ask me anything. And I come back, check the next day. Nothing has been asked. And I'm like, alrighty then. It's amazing. I feel like I'm the most hated person on the internet, because like even the people you know have fans and therefore aren't hated more than I am, which is really something. I wish there was a way to monetize the hate better. So as the comedy set went, I had a bit of an issue. It was hot in the theater to start with. And once the lights really got on, these were not the newest generation of LEDs. No, incandescent or so, heating up. It was it got to be pretty darn hot. And I wanted to do a thing where I was going to be wearing American Giant hoodies when I do stand-up, and they were like, hey, tell us how it goes. I'm like, sorry, it was really quite hot. It's 90 degrees out. There may not have been air conditioning in the theater. There were some renovations going on. The balcony was closed. The function I was with, this was through the local library in this small town in Kansas. But actually, it had a pretty nice main street, to be honest with you. And the theater was really nice. Like, this actually had an orchestra pit. You don't even have an orchestra pit in downtown Wichita's theater. The stage was quite comparable. I mean, this was made in the 20s, and it had a nice Art Deco appeal to it. But yeah, it got hot, and I was doing impressions, and some impressions like Vin Diesel or even machine gun sound effects, and sound effects I was doing for the guns and the Fortnite bit. I had a dry mouth for weeks, and I still do, and I don't really know why that is, because normally it's not a problem for me, but when you put these like three things together, it just makes it rough to get through talking for an hour. So I had to dip in and drink a lot more water than I intended to, and that slowed things down. But of the crowd, I probably had 20 to 30 people, of which I couldn't see any, because the lights were on me like an all-encompassing spotlight on the stage, which I kind of asked for. I didn't really want to see everybody. I didn't want there to be distractions, so the crowd was completely black. I didn't want there to be a visual of people coming in and out, and no one left, which is really a strong statement to make, that no one left a stand-up performance. Now, granted, if they had left, they could have done it easily. I had everybody wanting a mini poster afterwards and getting pictures, and that was nice. You know, it felt good. I wasn't nervous at all because most of my material has been hits and open mics, and I'm pretty comfortable running around in a park complaining about movies. So there wasn't like any element of stage fright. It was just the only thing that really held me back was dipping back and grabbing some water, of which I tried to come up with some quips on the fly. Hey, now I'm drinking the water like Donald Trump with two hands. There were a few laughs there. I mean, at one point I was like, hey, how is there still water in this bottle? Somebody coming here behind the stage and refilling it? That got a little bit of a laugh. Just a few things off the cuff. You don't know what's going to happen, so you have to be ready for anything and have a few, I wouldn't say elements chambered as far as jokes, but you need to be able to think quickly, so that'd help you out. I had most of my stuff memorized. I had found a computer program to read it back to me, so I was trying to learn it via osmosis. And for the most part, I kept up with it. There are a few parts where I was laughing as well and then got thrown off a bit, and also with this hoarseness that I was building up. And I was very hoarse after the show. When you're doing a one-way conversation, you're kind of mildly yelling and doing sound effects for an hour. It can really build up on you. But a lot of my stuff that was strong was near the end, which didn't get filmed because my dad is in the front row and he's like, hey, so I got my camera here, I'll film it. I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, you got like a 30-minute window limit on there because of the file size, because of FAT32 bullshit. He's like, oh yeah, well, when that 30 minutes goes by, I'll just hit the record again, do a new file. I'm like, okay, fine, that's fine enough, whatever. See him after the show, and he's like, yeah, so after the 30 minutes was up, I just put the camera down. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what we talked about doing. And that's why I can't do anything. Because if I'm not controlling the camera in some circumstance, it's going to turn out bad. So you can see how amazingly white I am. Yeah, the lights were bright, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't an interrogation. He didn't adjust the white balance by refocusing on the subject once the lights went down, so that everything ended up white, even the like incredibly black pants I was wearing. So, yeah, you can't really sell that as a special, and I didn't have a direct feed to the mic for capturing the audio. But I'm not too far off from really having a stand-up special. There are some avenues I can look at to get that done, and the theater really liked having me. I said, hey, I'd like to come back and do my first special here, and like, hey, we'd like to talk about that. So maybe I can get something done. As I say this, I'm getting hoarse again, so I'm drinking some Mountain Dew. Overall, I found it very enjoyable. I don't think that's necessarily for everybody. There are some decent comics in town, but I don't think anybody has an hour, and most of them don't want to do an hour. A lot of them are capable of the 5 to 20, maybe 30-minute block. I think an hour feels really daunting for them, and if you look at people doing specials on Netflix, most of them are older, mid-30s or older, and people are thinking, wow, it took them that long until they did a special. You know, I'm just a 20-something, I can't do it. If that's your attitude, then you're never going to get anywhere. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I want to move on to our next subject. So, I'm thinking about what World War III might look like. Now, we've been fighting unconventional wars for long enough here that maybe the new convention is that the war is already going and we don't see it. And I'm talking about the war against men. What if World War III is a systematic upheaval of society to kick men off to the curb, maybe get rid of them altogether? Want to point out something here. Everything is hypocritical now, and if you're on the right side of the hypocrisy, everybody thinks you're awesome. And if you're on the wrong side, well, guess what? You have to lose your job, even if you apologize, and you have to go into hiding for the rest of your life. So this guy, Ed Werder, former ESPN reporter, I think he reported on NFL going-ons. He was responding to some tweet from a lady who I think has a business in sports journalism of some kind. And she said, hey, I'm looking to hire female sports writers. And he's like, well, that's weird. Why can't you hire sports writers? Because let me tell you, I have to go talk to these aspiring sports journalists and tell them that they have little shot of getting a job. Well, here's the problem with being a sports journalist, guys. There isn't a lot of room for growth. If you are a local news sports journalist, you make a certain amount of money, and depending on the size of your market, you get a little bit more. You don't really become a name. You are not irreplaceable. You're just a cog in the machine. The athletes are the ones making the cash, and you are reporting on that. Your opinion is not really that important. Now, suppose you get to the top of the food chain. That means you're at ESPN, and you possibly have a show, probably sometime in the morning, and most educated people don't watch it. But this is where you actually get an opinion, and you make a few $1,000,000. Okay, where do you go from here? Well, you never get to take over ESPN. You don't necessarily make your own blog or your own podcast that goes through the roof, and you're in control of your own destiny. As soon as ESPN says, hey, we've had enough white guys over here, you're gone, that's, it's kind of time to slit the wrists. Ed Werder here, wherever he is now, he can't be making as much as he was with ESPN. I think that ESPN laid off a lot of guys recently. I don't think they got rid of a whole bunch of minority hires or women hires. I'm seeing more and more diversity over on ESPN, and you're seeing some of it. You're seeing some diversity over on, say, Fox Sports 1, a competitor of sorts of ESPN, a place where a lot of the ESPN talent got wooed into coming over for a higher paycheck, but most of them don't end up that way. You don't go from being a local guy to getting a show on Fox Sports 1 and making more money than ESPN. There are very few outlets hiring in sports journalists at a premium pay scale. So this is a high in-demand job, and we're training a lot of kids in college to go do it, and there's no money in it. And that's where you end up with society where it is now, where we trained a shitload of people to be filmmakers, and there's only 5 movies a year that make money. God damn it. So what do? Well, you say, look, we have to prioritize who gets to make money doing this. And the cool thing to do is to cry about it. So you get a bunch of minorities who get the jobs, you get the women who get the jobs, and if anything bad happens to them, they get some kind of trending topic moment on Twitter, a Facebook story, whatever they call that crap. And then there has to be a backlash. They rally the troops, the white knights come in, and now everything is just a mess. Nobody can get anything done. At some point, we're going to find that there was some science a while back that said that men may not be necessary after a certain period of years. Like if we develop the cloning process or artificial pregnancy capabilities, there could be a way to have offspring without men involvement. And women are looking forward to that. So men are a dying species right now. What if this World War III is against men and we just don't see it until it's too late? Isn't that the case? You know, you may not see the robots rising until it's too late. Until you can't even document it. Until you can't even so much as make the footnote in history. I think that's a possibility. We also have rampant stupidity across the internet. I want to talk about Twitter here for a second. Twitter recently-ish upped its character count so that you can complain more about stuff. The problem here is, no matter what you say on Twitter that is against the popular, incredibly liberal Twitter opinion, or even if it's not the popular opinion, it's the opinion that gets the spotlight on Twitter, and it's, shall we say, incredibly biased algorithm of determining what is important. Talking points are always liberal on Twitter. If the moment comes up, it's got the liberal spin. And it doesn't matter who you're following. It always goes down that way. So what I'm seeing here is we have a black teenager who ran away from cops after being pulled over, darted out of a car, got gunned down. I said something to the effect of, and this is pretty close. I said, what we need are PSAs, that's public service announcements, like little TV commercials or something you watch before a YouTube video, showing teenagers how to interact with police. Because running away puts your life in the hands of someone who makes a low-income government wage. Now, what kind of response did I get for this? You would have thought I was calling for ethnic cleansing with the comments I got. There was a whole lot of, go F yourself, like dozens of that. A whole lot of you're too stupid to talk to, you're ignorant. My suggestion that we educate the kids to help them avoid being gunned down by cops who I was not praising makes me the villain. Because according to these liberal asshats, the only solution to stop the black kids from getting killed by cops is to completely get rid of cops. Therefore, no cops can kill anybody, especially black kids. Now, how come their solution can't be get rid of all black kids? See, solutions don't have to be extreme. There can be different steps and approaches that end up having a synergy effect. Now look, if you tighten down gun control, that doesn't stop the cops from shooting people. If you say the cops can't have guns, this could lead to other problems, especially in a country that's as sprawled out as ours, where unlike England, you may go several miles before you get to a town. You could have people living in rural areas where they need the ability to defend themselves. There is no time to wait for the cops, as the liberals want them to. How come part of the solution can't be education? That when it comes to something that they like to educate, it's so weird. The liberals are about education when it's certain to be the kind they want, right? Oh, sex education. Okay, you can't have abstinence only. You have to have multiple approaches. How come we can't have multiple approaches towards this? How come we have entertainment glamorizing through music video games, movies, TV shows, that running away from cops is the thing to do? That the cops are out to get them. They're a black teen. The cops want to kill them. So if the cop pulls you over, you're dead already. You may as well run or fight back. That's the education these kids are getting. They have parents telling them not to trust the cops. And then look what happens. Good luck reaching adulthood. What you need is a PSA. The kids are in the car. They get pulled over. And the cop's like, hey, license registration. One of them's like, oh man, I'm gonna leave. And it's like, no, be cool. And that could be the message. Cop pulls you over, be cool, right? So then the cop's like, hey, I just wanted to warn you that you have a brake light out. Okay, thanks, officer. And then they shoot the cop anyways. Yeah, of course you wouldn't put the last part in, but that would get the cops to shoot them, right? But that's what I'm saying here is the media has upped this to the point. The media doesn't care really about anybody's side here. They think it's hilarious that they have these black people in a panic over the cops, and now they can manipulate them into voting the way they want. The media wants to get rid of guns. The way they do this is they try to get all the black people to agree that if we got rid of the guns, the cops quit shooting them. So vote for the Democrats, and there you go. Now we're not just delivering the news, we are determining the results of elections. You got rich guys also buying the elections. This guy Bloomberg wants to put, was it like $60 or $90 million in campaigns to flip the House? Oh yeah, that sounds entirely ethical. To think that people are such sheep that they'll just vote for whoever's name appears the most online or on television without any real care of the issues. That's what the rich people want. That's what the media wants. Whoever we decide as the tastemakers to be the elite elected, that will be the way it goes down. Someone who has our agenda in mind and keeps us getting rich, that's who we want. And that's what the sheeple will vote for, with no real concern for themselves. So yeah, that sucks. And on top of that, we have the NBA draft. It's probably just wrapped up. And I don't give a shit about it, but let's look at a few points here. So the worst teams have a lottery to determine the order for picking players, and I think maybe it's the top 15, 20 picks, and then eventually it ends up by your results at the end of the season where you select. And in the NBA draft, you have 2 rounds. You have a very limited roster in the NBA. Guys keep coming in. Guys have to fall off quickly. Your stars stick around seemingly forever. And you try to build around them. But in many cases, the stars end up getting selected early in the lottery, pick 1, 2, or 3, and they go to a small market team who can't surround them in talent, and also they're developing. They get heckled by ESPN into leaving for a big market team. Hey, you got all this talent. What are you doing in Milwaukee? Come on over to Los Angeles. Of course, you have these sports guys in Los Angeles telling these talented athletes to come to Los Angeles so they can make more money, and they do as well. Hey, my bosses over in Los Angeles would like you to come by. If you were a real player and real talented, you'd want to come to Los Angeles. They say things like, well, if you really want the spotlight, if I guess maybe you can't handle the spotlight, so you're staying in Milwaukee. It's so like antitrust, the NBA, where one key star can swing a team so far in the NBA. It's so much more of a factor than the NFL. Yeah, you get a once-in-a-generation player like Tom Brady to stick around for 15 some years and lead the way to Super Bowl victories, MVPs, record books, right? You don't have a lot of those around. It behooves you to have an elite quarterback, and that's why they spend $20 million plus on elite quarterbacks. I think now there's one getting $30 million. Yeah, I think that there's one now who broke the 30 million threshold per season. But Tom Brady, his wife is super rich, richer than anybody in the NFL, so he can work for like a veteran minimum salary and surround himself with players who, with their talents, he can achieve success. Now, the NBA does not have a salary cap. You have just a few people in the NBA making all the money. You have a ton of role players vying for spots so they don't have to be stuck in the G League. And then you have these kids come in, and these guys and the veterans are like, hey, we're the ones who get to vote on the collective bargaining agreement. We're going to say that these guys who don't get to vote, the rookies who haven't been selected yet, they get a reduced salary. That way there's money for us to go around. That's what they do. And they're trying to get theirs while they can. Now, these college players who, let's use some air quotes on college, because they attended one semester of college and they probably didn't even go to class. And I'll tell you, I had a few NBA prospects in classes of mine at college at the University of Kansas, and they didn't strike me as people who could graduate high school. These are people who are, because of one perceived talent, are thrust into the spotlight, are given opportunities that greatly exceed their capacity, and money that they have no idea what to do with. And because they have money, they have a bunch of people who know better what to do with it. They get a posse who wants to spend their money for them, and then they're broke. And in the NBA, you make enough money, you might actually skate out of that and have something saved up. But hey, ask Allen Iverson. If not for an agreement he had, I believe it was with Reebok, wherein on his 50th birthday, he makes like $50 million. Because the way this was structured, he'd be completely broke. I think he has $1 million. He was popping into the, Big Three, Ice Cube's limping dead basketball league for veteran players. I mean, it's so messed up. These guys, you can dribble, you can dunk, you can shoot a little. As regular everyday folk, what should we give a shit about? I can watch any NBA game or close to it, any one that I'd want anyways, because let's be honest, this season doesn't start until the playoffs. I can watch all of that for free. Why show up? I think people are showing up now just to get the courtside seats so that they can Instagram it, so that they can get their celebrity status, be courtside, because they want to be Drake, even though Drake isn't even a talented rapper, and he wears heavy coats everywhere and Cosby sweaters. That they want to be seen. And the NBA allows you to be seen because you are dangerously close to the court, and it's only a matter of time until there's a fatality involving somebody who dropped a beer, someone slips on it, 300-pound guy slams into someone or hits a head, slams into that person who hits a head, somebody dies, and then we'll see how you adjust. We'll see you put up some glass partition, right? We'll see how, or a safety net, or no more cups courtside. We'll see what kind of adjustments there are. And while we're at this, we have Puma sweeping in over here saying, hey, we want to get a piece of this NBA basketball stuff. We realize that the urban youth, aka black kids, will buy whatever sneakers they're told to because their favorite NBA stars are wearing them in the game. These NBA signature sneakers sell. There's commercials, there's athletes wearing them, there's this perception that that athlete's cool, he has it. Hey, I want to be like LeBron. I want to wear LeBron's ugly shoes now because he's not LeBron without them. Got some little news for you. LeBron's not buying LeBron shoes. LeBron is being paid to wear LeBron shoes. You are being grossly overcharged to wear LeBron's ugly sneakers so that you can pretend to be some asshole who blames his teammates whenever he comes up short. Now, when I was a kid, when athletes lost a championship game, they tried to show some respect. There was this thing called sportsmanship, and there was this concept that you didn't want to be a sore loser. You didn't go around throwing your teammates under the bus and talking about how you needed help. Oh, but what ramifications are this, huh? There's going to be a new pair of LeBron sneakers. But even as LeBron goes, do you even want his shoes? They aren't the most popular. Everybody in the NBA is second to a guy who has been retired for about 15 years, Michael Jordan. He's been retired for as long. He retired a season before LeBrick showed up. So the guy who revolutionized the sneaker game, the guy who is the face of, shall we say, the signature shoe era, that guy can only come around once. Michael Jordan has already done this. So everybody else is just not Michael Jordan. You want to sign with Nike? Well, you're not Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan gets more money than you, and that's the way it's going to be. Shrewdly, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant had a chance to do this, but Steph Curry decided to be the face of And One. Now, since Steph Curry is one of the hottest players right now, he's got the shot that everybody's emulating. You've watched the commercials. Kids in the commercials for the NBA talking about how the NBA is inspiring them and all this shit. They're not dunking. They're doing the three-point shot. The three-point shot has gone up so drastically in the NBA. Over the last several years, each year, teams have shot 2 to 3 more three-pointers per game. So just like 5 years ago, there was almost like half as many three-pointers being shot in a game as there is now. It's growing that quick. Steph Curry changed the game. Now, these rookies can't do that. What are they doing? I mean, they can go over to And One, right, and be not Steph Curry. Or they can go to Puma. Yeah, Puma says we want to get in on the NBA game. They signed up some rookies. They want to get them their signature shoe and hope that something comes of them. And it's always a crapshoot with these rookies. You really don't know until maybe 3 years in when they're looking at free agency and you have the big market teams wanting them. That's really when you get to really decide who's worth a signature shoe deal, really. And they also have a star in there, I think Rudy Gay. And it's kind of like, why? Who would buy shoes based on Rudy's name being involved in this? And these guys are not shoe designers. These are guys working on their basketball profession, and we have decided that they are now Kate Spade, minus the suicide. Like, these guys are going around designing their shoes, sure. But Puma says, look, it doesn't matter what we do with running, it doesn't matter what we do with football, soccer, whatever. Those are not lifestyle shoes that people can wear on the streets. So the shoes from basketball are the driving force. So if you want to have an athletic company, you have to get in on the NBA stuff, as so long as the NBA is popular. Realistically, long-distance running could provide you a shoe that you could actually use in your work job. Yeah, I made up work job right there. You know, as opposed to your stay-at-home job. But something where your feet are under distress and you need to book some mileage on them. Long-distance running shoes, like that seems like the comfortable route, doesn't it? Not basketball so much. Do you really need to jump? You need to work on your vertical? No, you need comfortable shoes. Long-distance run, I mean, that fits it, doesn't it? That makes sense to me. But we can't make stars of long distance running because it's not a major team sport in North America and urban youth, blah, blah, whatever. Yeah, we can't do that. So we got these young guys rocking the Pumas. Now, why did they go to Puma? Was it because of what I said, where they can be like the face of Puma? Now, it has more to do with Jay-Z, also a recent signing at Puma. You see, Kanye West has such a sweet deal going with Adidas that he has upped, through a halo effect, the brand prestige over at Adidas to the point that he claims he's outselling Air Jordan as a lifestyle. And he very well may be telling the truth there, because what kid has seen Air Jordan play, right? They're not familiar with Michael Jordan. There's like a legacy, a myth thing to it, but it's also old. It's an old guy. Now, Kanye West, he's more current. He's having a say in the presentation of his shoe. I don't really think that Michael Jordan's doing much more than checking off on the design each year. You're like, yeah, okay, that's good. I think Ye is a little more hands-on here. I think that he actually has a lot of control in the colorways and the different styles, the sizes, high, low, mid, whatever, putting them on cleats, all this stuff. And because of that attention to detail, he's risen up. And now Jay-Z wants to be like Kanye. Jay-Z's getting over here with Puma, and he's going to have some shoes. And here's the thing. They're probably not going to look that great. I'll give Ye some credit here on these Boost 350, at least the first generation. Or even those like taller ones that are kind of like boots, like that. Those are not bad looking shoes. And with Adidas's Boost technology built into the sole, there's a lot of constitutions of restitution. So you have this bounciness, this quality that you want in a shoe to make it comfortable on your joints. Trust me, I know about this stuff. As you know, well, I'm sure you know. You know, by having the technology and the application to pull this off, it seems like Ye's got a lot going for him there. What are the odds that Jay-Z's shoe looks like shit? Because of the Jay-Z Beyonce powerhouse, the black kids get convinced that it's a cool shoe anyways. What are the chances? I would say pretty damn good chances, honestly. It's way easier for a shoe to end up ugly because you're trying so hard to not duplicate another look, something that's tried and true. A classic doesn't go out of style, but new ages pretty quick. Look at those shoes that the guys are wearing in White Men Can't Jump. Oh, but now you can call it a classic. Well, they haven't really come back now, have they? I'm saying, sight unseen, the Jay-Z shoes probably suck, or at least look bad. But you're not going to hear that among the media, no, because you have to talk about how Jay-Z's such a pioneer. He has this title that's losing cash left, right, and center. He has Beyonce, this complete psychopath of a woman whose every song and music video is about how she needs to be worshipped. Oh, but everybody has to look up to her because she's demanding to be looked up to. She's so strong and powerful because she's begging for the strength and the power. Jesus Christ. So that's my thoughts on that. If you guys enjoyed the recently canceled podcast, this is the end of the free version. We are now going to move ahead over to the premium version for the Patreon exclusive listeners. That's $1 a month, gets you full access to recently canceled podcasts, past episodes, whatever. Just $1 a month, and it helps me make these. So